Welcome to the Woodridge Baptist Church podcast. For more information about what's happening in the life of our church, visit our website at www.woodridge.org. Enjoy the podcast.
Well, friends, we continue our study of the Gospel of Mark, and so I invite you to turn to Mark chapter 12, and we'll begin in verse 13. We are in tax season. Did you know that? That was just a public service announcement to make sure that you get that in. Now, there's a reason that I bring that up. It's going to actually connect to what we're talking about today, but before we jump in, a couple of things, and for those of you maybe that haven't been here, I want to catch up to speed about where we've been. It's almost like a TV show. Previously, what's been going on? Well, the religious leaders who, I would describe their relationship with Jesus as not great, if that's fair. They had previously confronted Jesus because he had gone into the temple. And when he went into the temple, he cleaned the house out. Now, there were a number of reasons that Jesus did that, but the main reason that Jesus did it is because what they had done with the temple. They made a mess of the space. What was supposed to be the place where people from all nations could come and they could find the living God, they had turned it into something else. It had turned into a place where they could make a profit. They could spin a profit off of the name of God. Strangely enough, Jesus wasn't real fired up about that. And so he goes in and he cleans the place out. Now, there was this question that they asked him. They're like, well, by what authority do you think you can do something like this? And on the face of it, seems like a fair question. I mean, if you're the religious leaders, you're like, well, I'm the leader, so I'm going to ask you a question because you're not. And so Jesus does what Jesus does. And he goes, well, who do you think gave John the Baptist his anointing to do what he did? And he did that on purpose, because John the Baptist had been foretold in a number of Old Testament places, but one of those was like Malachi, that there was going to be one that came before Jesus that would prepare the way for him. And so he just asked that question because everybody around there was liking John the Baptist except for the people that had him killed, not them. But the crowds loved the guy, and he had a profound ministry. Well, that's a bit of a trick question because if the answer is, well, his anointing came from God, well, you don't want to mess with God. So they're like, all right, don't answer the question. That was basically the move that they made. And the reason that Jesus even brought it up was like, well, if he was anointed by God and he was the one that was preparing the way for me, you don't want to mess with me because I'm the one that God was talking about to begin with. So how did they respond to that? Well, they didn't respond with any humility, right? And sit there going, oh man, you know what? We haven't been working in good faith with you. You know what I'm talking about when I say that? Like people are just working with integrity with each other. They didn't say that. You know what we've been doing? We've been trying to get you, and we just need to stop that mess. This is crazy time. We're going to stop it. That's not how they reacted. They just go, let's leave. Like, don't answer it. Just walk away. And then we'll have a little bit more time to prepare so that we can get him. That's what they were doing. And so now for what's coming up, they're sending people to trap Jesus. Don't you love it when people do that? Right? So they come to trap. It didn't work. So they're like, well, what if we sent other people to do it? That's what's going to be going on in what we're looking at today. But you also have to remember this. People are watching. This area, this time, it's probably really packed with people because it's Passover. People would descend on this area for the celebration of Passover. It was a really sacred time. Josephus had pointed out that there were upwards of 255,000 lambs that will be slaughtered in this area in this time. So imagine this. If 250,000 animals are being sacrificed in this space, how many people do you think have shown up for it? I'm going to bet a lot. Like a lot. And so they've gathered around because Jesus has garnered a following. And boy, it makes a lot of sense. Think about it. If you had been performing miracles, much less the profound teaching ministry that Jesus has had on the people there, and if you've been casting out demons, I'm just throwing this out there. I would show up myself to see what's going on. What about you? And so all these people, and because of it, Jesus had gained a really good name. People liked him. Some people. Other people were definitely against him, like these. And so let's look at Mark chapter 12. We're going to read one verse, and then I got to fill you in on a little bit more, but here's the way it goes. In Mark chapter 12, verse 13, it says, they sent some of the Pharisees and the Herodians to Jesus to trap him in his words. Well, okay, so what's going on here? If you were to look at these two groups, if you were to look at the Pharisees and you were to look at the Herodians, they're not friends. I don't know another way to say it. They are absolutely not friends with each other. And there's a reason for this. The Pharisees were people of the law. The way that they are described is, these are people that are supposed to be holy, kind of set apart, people of the book, meaning people of the Bible, people of the law, the Torah, the first 5 books of the Bible. That's who the Pharisees were supposed to be. Now, they hate the fact that they live in an occupied country. And the occupiers of that country is Rome. Rome is the one that's in charge of the space at the time, and they don't like it. On the other side, you have the Herodians that were just mentioned. These were people that were followers of Caesar. Here's what that means. These were people that were a part of the oppressing of the Jews. But now you've got these two people, the Pharisees, who are supposed to be the religious folk, the religious leaders at that, partnering together with the Herodians, who they hate, to go after Jesus. Now, think about this. Both of them have reasons to go after him, though they are different reasons. But it reminds us of something really important today. There are different ways to unify people. There are different ways to unify people. And one of the ways that you can unify people is who you mutually are going to hate. You can do that. You can have a world of differences and disagreements with people, but you can agree to hate this person or this group, and they become the target of everything that you are after, whether what you're saying about them is true or not. Some of you understand this better than you think, because some of you have experienced this. Some of you have experienced people that have maligned your name. They have said false things against you. And what they've done is gone to rally other people to their cause, because it's not about the truth, it's about them against you. Hate can be very powerful in unifying people. The strange thing is if you think about the Pharisees, you would think that hate might not be the thing that they're most about. After all, if you're a religious leader, maybe hate's not your highest value. But for them, they hated Jesus. Now, let me give you a little bit of history here so you can understand what's going on here. I think I'm going to get an amen when I say this, but taxes are not great. Now, I'm not totally against taxes. I think that they do some good. After all, you drove on roads to get here. I'm fine with that. The police, I am perfectly fine with paying the police, firefighters, our military. I could go on. There are a lot of things that I'm perfectly fine with taxes. There are other things I'm not. And I think there's a ton of waste. That's your public service announcement on a Sunday morning, people. You're welcome. Now imagine being these good people. Imagine being Jewish under Roman oppression. Now they had a couple of taxes that they would pay. My favorite that we pay is property taxes, which means, I own everything on the land. I don't own the land really, when you think about it. That's my favorite. They had to pay a couple of things, like a temple tax. They also had to pay a poll tax. Now, the poll tax is really the thing that's going on here, because what a poll tax is 1 day's wage to Caesar as a tribute to him. 1 day's wage to Caesar as a tribute to him. And the coin represented Rome over them. That's what it was about. It was deeply symbolic. Now, remember the 10 Commandments? The 10 Commandments, it forbids graven images. And the reason for that is it's idolatry. It's like, don't do it. And yet on their coin was a graven image of a man. Let me show you an example of this coin. If you were to look at this coin, this is the kind of coin that's being talked about in this passage in Mark chapter 12. Around Caesar's head, if you look at it and can actually read it, it says Caesar, son of the divine. And then if you look at the other side of the coin, it says Pontus Maxim, which means high priest. So on a coin, on the front, you have the image of Caesar, and they're saying Caesar is the Son of God. And on the back of the coin, it says that he is the high priest. Now imagine this. Imagine being Jewish, and your oppressor claims to be both divine and your high priest. How many of you would say, I find that mildly offensive? Because they sure did. They sure did. And it also draws out into the light something about how the Pharisees could partner with the Herodians that are perfectly content to say, you give us this. You recognize this. And this is why everybody expected that the Savior, especially I'm talking about Jewish people, the Messiah was going to come and overthrow Rome. It's for stuff like this. But also, this is something else that we need to remember, is that if this is the expectation that they had, is that the Messiah wasn't come to deliver us from sin, the Messiah is coming to deliver us from Rome, that if they go, and there he is, that's our guy, and they point to Jesus, immediately Rome is going to be coming after to kill him. Did you ever notice in the Gospels as you read it, there were times where Jesus says, hey, like, be quiet. Like, don't tell people who I am just yet. You remember that? That's why. He's like, hold off. I mean, the time's coming, but chill a little bit. Calm down. We don't want to get out ahead of things. And so with that, here's what happens. When they came, remember the people that they sent? When they came, they said to him, teacher, we know that you're truthful and don't care what anyone thinks, nor do you show partiality, but teach the way of God truthfully. All right, stop for 1 second. How many of you are believing them right now? And then they go, is it lawful to pay taxes to Caesar or not? Should we pay or shouldn't we? There's the question. There it is. Now think about this. Remember what I said before. One of the ways that you can unify people is by getting people to hate someone. And one of the things that they're trying to do is to get a group of people that are following Jesus to start to hate him. So this is a hit job. You have a couple of possibilities here. Let's imagine he says yes. So the question is it lawful to pay taxes to Caesar? And he goes, yeah. Well, the crowd's going to hate him. And the reason they're going to hate him is because they're going to interpret this as, oh, he's pro-Rome. I mean, the people that are oppressing us, all of a sudden you're like, yeah, it's fine what they're doing. We're against you now. That's what they're hoping. Here's the second possibility, is he goes, all right, is it lawful to pay taxes to Caesar or not? And he goes, no. It's not lawful to pay taxes to Caesar. Oh, great. Now you're committing treason, and we're going to because he's gathering up a rebellion against Rome, and so now Rome is going to come after him. What's the good answer to the question? I mean, there's not one. It's either they're going to hate him or they're going to hate him, but it's hate. And they thought they did a pretty good job. They had a little bit of time to prepare this, remember? They thought they had done a pretty good job of roping Jesus in. But it's important that you remember this. What they are looking to do is to get Jesus afraid so that he will find a group to hide in. Which group do you want to join up with? This group so they don't hate you, or that group so they don't hate you? Here's the funny thing about it. If you look at the Pharisees have been doing this the whole time. I mean, the whole thing, the reason they didn't answer any questions that Jesus asked them is because they were scared of the crowd. So they're like, just walk away. But Jesus does something different. Look at what he does. Verse 15, it says, but knowing their hypocrisy, he said to them, why are you testing me? Like, why are you testing me? Now that's well played. They ask a question, and what does Jesus give them? A question. Brilliant. Maybe learn that sometime. I also, now this is a hunch. Mark doesn't say this. This is a hunch for me, but I think Jesus probably said this pretty loud. And the reason that I think he said it pretty loud is there's a crowd around. And I'm also convinced at this point that the crowd has started to sniff out that the Pharisees aren't all that in a bag of chips. It's like something is up with this group. Maybe we don't know what it is yet. I'm not sure that we can trust them. So I'm pretty convinced at this point that Jesus says something like this. Why are you testing me? Because they're listening. The Pharisees feared the people. And I'm talking about the crowd, they're tuned into the fact at this point that these people are questionable. So they're like, yeah, why are you testing him? Let's wait for an answer. But Jesus he pivots again and he does something different. This is what he says. He says, bring me a denarius to look at. And they brought a coin, like the one I showed you. Whose image and inscription is this? He asked them. I got to be honest with you. I find that to be a weird question. It's weird. The reason that it's weird is you've probably got the most famous person in the world with their inscription. It would be like me doing this, putting this image up in front of a crowd and going, whose image is this? I mean, unless you have been gone for a really long time, you probably have an idea, am I right? And I don't just mean in the United States. I'm talking about globally. If I were to walk out and go, who do you think this is? Most people are going to be able to give an answer. Jesus just did this with the question that he asked. Who's that? But he's doing something. Because they replied, oh, it's Caesar's. It's Caesar's image. And Jesus told them, well, give to Caesar the things that are Caesar's, and to God the things that are God's. And they were utterly amazed at him. And here's why. To the symbol that was on the coin, it represents evil and it represents blasphemy. Caesar, the Son of God, your high priest. It represents evil and it represents blasphemy. And he calls their attention to the image. So you have to understand the coin is deeply symbolic of something. It is symbolic of idolatry. And here's what Jesus says, throw it back. Why would you want to keep it anyway? Throw it back, give it back. Why are you so hung up on this? Who cares? It's a coin. But the other thing that he's pointing out is this, his kingdom does not hinge on this stuff. His kingdom is different. In other words, give him his poll tax, why do I care? So the coin bears the Caesar's image, but Jesus is implicitly asking this question, whose image do you bear? Give him his coin back, it's his, I don't care. But whose image do you bear? So answer that question and then come follow me. Come follow me. I think there are a number of implications for us this morning. I want to get into this just a little bit, but I think this is the biggest one. If I were to kind of put it in a snapshot on what Jesus wants us to remember from this moment in history, it's this. We have something that we need to give back. We've got something that we need to give back. And we need to give thought to what we need to give back so that we can follow Jesus, but something's got to go. Something's got to go. I want you to think about this. Following Jesus can mean losing a job, where the things that you value and espouse because of your Christian faith do not align with what you're being told to do in your job, and you go, I have a choice I have to make. Now that's an inflection point, and I'm here to, that's a difficult point, but it's a very real possibility for people. Following Jesus can mean that you have to look at a relationship that you've got and say that relationship has got to go. Sometimes as students, it might be a boyfriend or a girlfriend, I don't know. They might need to go. But also, by following Jesus, people might take legal action against you. You've probably seen that in the headlines, right? It's not like once or twice you read about it. You keep reading in the Gospel of Mark, and Jesus is going to end up giving his life for us. But they're the most persecuted people group in the world are Christians. And you don't have to read like a huge amount of history to figure that out. I mean, just in the last several weeks, if you pay attention to what's been happening just in the Congo, for example, where Christians have been getting gathered up and they've been getting slaughtered. There was one story in particular that I found, particularly profound and moving. You know, there was a man that they literally dragged him out of his house and they gave him a choice to deny Christ. And he said, I will not do it. And they killed him on the spot for it. You know, this ends up making national news. But here's the thing. Sometimes in following Jesus, that's exactly what's going to happen. It's exactly what's going to happen. And choices get made in those moments. And real allegiance shows. For the story that I was just sharing, that man, toward the end of his earthly life, showed his allegiance. He wouldn't bend from it. So what's interesting is, you know, I said before, pay your taxes. And then Jesus is like talking about this a little bit. And I thought, you know what? I don't think I'm going to pay mine this year. I'm just feeling wild like that. I'm just kidding. Don't do that. Don't pay your taxes. It's fine. You know, the big joke is this passage isn't actually about taxes. That's not really what it's about when you think about it. It's not. The question is about who gets me. That's the question. I was, a few weeks ago, y'all know this, I went on a mission trip. I was in Central Asia, and then I went into the Middle East. And there was a pastor, and I found him to be just very inspiring for a lot of reasons. A number of which, you know, he went into the country that we were in. He was in the poorest part of the country. He went into a place where it is all Muslim, and he sets up a Christian mission right there. And the area is particularly challenging. It's one of the most, in terms of drug use, alcohol use, problems within the families, it's one of the worst places in the country. And he goes, I think I'm going to set up shop there. And they bring kids in and they feed them. They provide food for people in the villages that are kind of in the surrounding area. They bring the kids in to teach them Hebrew and Arabic and all of these other kinds of languages so that they can learn and so that they can be a part of what's ahead of them, because they wouldn't get an education without it. I find that to be really inspiring. Now, what happened was people started showing up to the mission, because they were seeing the love of Jesus through the work that this man was doing. And there were some leaders, religious leaders, that decided to show up and say, now who are you? That feels very familiar to this passage, doesn't it? They've burned his car up twice, and the man just keeps going. But there was a part of his story that I found really inspiring beyond that. He was also a pastor. And he was telling me about how he had left his church. And so what was going on there? He said, I'd been pastoring this group for some years. We would get together, we would have worship and whatnot. But they were walking out and absolutely nothing was changing. They just went back to their lives. And so I came to a point, he said, where on a Sunday morning, apparently not terribly long ago, they got together, they had church, and he said, today is my last day with you. And the reason that it was his last day with him, he said, is this is a gathering, but this isn't a church. You're getting together, and then you're going and doing nothing. And I want to go, he said, my days are shorter, and I want to go to a place where something can happen. Now think about that. So he's got this mission by God's grace. I mean, looks like he's going to be pastoring another church. But I don't think anybody in this room today would question this man's allegiance. I want you to notice something in the same passage. If you were just to go a couple of verses later, this is what it says in Mark chapter 12, verse 28. It says, on the same day. This is all on the same day. It says, a scribe heard them debating and saw Jesus answered everything well. You got to love it for that scribe, don't you? He's sitting there going, they keep coming after this guy, and he just keeps giving it back. Like, they have no way to respond to this guy. He answers everything well, and he asks this, what's the greatest commandment? Like, what's the greatest commandment? And Jesus says, verse 29 and 30, hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. Love the Lord your God with all of your heart, with all of your soul, with all of your mind, with all of your strength, and love your neighbor as yourself. You know who should have known that? The Pharisees. That wasn't anything new. The Pharisees. But when you think about what Jesus is asking from us, friends, there's nothing left of you. Heart, soul, mind, strength. There is nothing left. So the question before, whose image is on you? And he says, give God what is God's. Give him everything of you. Give him that. Your allegiance. When you think about what an allegiance is, it's a commitment to a person or to a group or to a cause. That's what an allegiance is. And the mettle of our commitment is actually tested and shown by the circumstances and how we endure them. That's why I said before, when you look at the stories coming out of the Congo and other places where people absolutely will not deny Jesus, even though they know their life is on the line, nobody in this room questions their allegiance. None. But Jesus is asking us and pointing out something to us today. A competing allegiance will not work. It won't work. If what you've got is a system and a set of values that are set over and opposed to his, it won't work. You cannot live his life out if what you're doing is asking to water it down right over here. It won't work. And that's what shows us our deepest allegiance is in the compromises that we're willing to make. And Jesus says, that's not the game. This isn't it. I said, come follow me.
We hope you have enjoyed the podcast. For more information about our church, visit www.woodridge.org.